All right, guys, second day of graphing exponential functions. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on reflections. And when I talk about reflections, what I mean by that is we're going to make this a value negative. All right, and what's going to happen is the original graph is going to flip over the x-axis. Now, this was actually on, I think, the very first video. If you had y equals 2 to the x, what's in red there, that's your exponential curve. It goes up left to right. What's going to happen is you're going to wind up flipping it over the x-axis. So I'm going to put this in black. When I put a negative in front for this negative 2 to the x, it's going to look like this graph. And you can kind of see when it flips over the x-axis, it's going to go down left to right. So it's going to be a little bit different than what we did. It's actually going to decrease exponentially. And if we don't know that, we can just make an XY chart and kind of rely on our calculator. So that's what I have over here. Let's do the math to prove that we're going to get this graph. Okay, again, I picked a couple negatives, a couple positives. Let's start with 0. Okay, if I put 0 in, you're going to get this, right? You're going to have a negative and then 2 to the 0. Well, 2 to the 0 is 1, but this negative's just hanging there, so it stays as negative 1. And that's also going to be our y-intercept. If I put in a 1 to that x, okay, I'm going to get rid of that. You're going to have the negative on the outside. Okay, and you raise it to the first. Let's see here, 2 to the first 1, but then again, that negative's kind of just hanging there, so you get negative 2. So you get negative 2 there. Okay, and then I'm going to put 2 in for x. So I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, if I put 2 in for x, 2 squared is 4, negative stays there, so it's negative 4. So you can kind of see these y values, they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So this graph's going to go down left to right. Okay, let's put in the negatives here. If I put in negative 1 for x, okay, I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, all right. So if I put in negative 1, you're still going to have the negative on the outside. Remember, 2 to the negative 1 is just like saying 1 over 2 to the first. So 1 over 2 to the first is 1/2. You get negative 1/2 for this. So this, you can see this is where it levels off. Then I'm going to put negative 2 in for x. Again, you could just be putting this on the calculator and probably getting it quicker than I am. Okay, let's say I'm going to put negative 2. So if you have 2 to the negative 2, that's like saying 1 over 2 squared. So this is going to just give us negative 1/4. Alright, so if you weren't sure what the graph's going to look like, just plug in 4 or 5 points and see what the curve turns out being when you connect the dots. Let's see here. If I graph negative 2, negative 1/4, I go to the left 2 and down 1/4, so it's right about there. A little messy. Okay, negative 1, negative 1/2. So I go to the left 1 and right about there. Okay, and then 0, negative 1, that's the y-intercept. 1, negative 2, I go to the right 1, down 2. Whoops, actually I graphed 0, negative 1 should be here. So I'm going to get rid of this. There you go, that's 0, negative 1. Okay, 1, negative 2, you go to the right 1, down 2. That's 1, negative 2 right there. And then 2, negative 4, I go to the right 2, down 4, so we're right here. So you connect it, that's our curve. Right? To the left it levels off, to the right it decreases exponentially. And if you look, it looks exactly like that of if I flip the original 2 to the x. Alright, so let's just go right underneath here and fill out this information. The y-intercept, domain, and range. The y-intercept, put this in blue, the y-intercept is this right there, the 0, negative 1. Okay, remember the x value is always 0 at the y-intercept. The domain's going to be always the same. This goes forever to the left and it goes forever to the right. So domain's negative infinity to positive infinity. Now the range is going to change because we had that negative in front and it flipped over the y-axis. Right? Normally this is what the curve looked like. It was above. Now this curve's below. All these y values are negative. And if you look at our y chart, all these y values are negative right here. So this goes down to negative infinity and it gets closer and closer to 0. So when I put this in interval notation, okay, when I put this in interval notation, it is negative infinity and it goes all the way up to 0, which is the x-axis, but it never hits. Okay, so that's pretty much how you graph one. Again, you can rely on your XY chart, and then at the end you'll find your y-intercept, domain, and range.